The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Wednesday, the 5th day of August, 2025. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves on Hot 107.5 with these most important community conversations. I'm Jamel Hartman, and we'll have a news break from Teo Dill in a bit. How's everyone feeling today? Happy hump day to you. Happy hump day. Happy middle of the traditional work week. Hopefully everyone is over the holiday hangover or the cot match bug and back into their routine. It's hard sometimes when you know that's a long weekend. We have 2 long weekends a year, cot match and Christmas holiday period with Christmas and Boxing Day. And I'll tell you, Christmas is easier because most people take off. Most people in traditional work periods. It's August 6th. Sorry, I said August 5th. August 6th. My apologies. It does say August 6th on my screen as well. But thank you for that. Shika Reina says August 6th. Good morning. Yes, August 6th. But yeah, Christmas, you all don't work. You don't do anything. Cotton match is like, okay, don't work that week leading up, and then the next week we've got to all get back to it. So hopefully everyone is back into their routine and excited to be back doing what they do. But greetings, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome the Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Adley Duncan, onto the show. We're going to be discussing some of the things that have been going on in his office. A lot of you have asked us to bring the DPP on because of the number of either dismissals or acquittals or not guilty verdicts that have come in, and trying to find out like what's going on. So we've got the Deputy Director in the house to answer your questions and concerns about how you're feeling about the state of prosecutions in Bermuda. The Daily Play is music today, so it's a fun one. Hopefully everyone gets this. I think everyone will get this. If you are an R&B fan of good R&B music from the 90s, you should get this question with ease. Folks, please don't forget to subscribe on our website, thedailyhour.com, and follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. All right, let's jump right into today's conversation. We've got some things to discuss, and the question of the morning is, what are your thoughts on BermudAir? What are your thoughts on BermudAir? A lot has been put in the news regarding BermudAir as of late. You saw a couple weeks ago or last week, the Royal Gazette on July 26 had a story titled Skyport Sues BermudAir Over Unpaid Fees. There's another report that hasn't been as publicly known, but within just over a month, they cut the service to TF Green Airport in Providence, Rhode Island. Not much was said about that. And then TNN recently this week said that BermudAir service disrupted after staff denied airport access. So there seems to be a lot going on with BermudAir. And I'm just going to read from TNN. It says a disruption unfolded at Al Wade International Airport on Monday, August 4th. As BermudAir staff were denied access to airport facilities. According to sources, Skyport, the airport's commercial management entity, revoked and blocked airport access to BermudAir employees without prior notice. As a result of the interference, airline personnel were prevented from performing their daily duties. Subsequently, leaving a number of travelers inconvenienced. So, I mean, you've seen the news reports, folks. Here's another question. Would you be in favor? We don't know what's going on with BermudAir. What we do know is that if you've flown them, most times the flights haven't been full. We do know that they have added more aircraft to their lineup. We do know that they have added more destinations to their lineup. What we don't know is their business model, right? So what are your thoughts on BermudAir? But also, if it came down to it, would you be in favor of government financially assisting BermudAir if needed? Would you be in favor of the government financially assisting BermudAir if needed? Would you be in favor of that? But again, what are your thoughts based on these news reports about BermudAir? Number one, Skyport suing them and then not having access to the airport. Do you have any opinions on that? We've got Dr. Anthony Richardson says all new businesses struggle to start in the early years. If we want this Bermudian airline, we must continue to support them, their growth and sustainability. And that's the thing, Dr. Anthony Richardson. What does that support look like? How do we support them? Because anyone who's watched this show knows when BermudAir launched in 2023, there was probably not a bigger fan who had no affiliation than me publicly. And I completely understand what you're saying, having been in the situation. New businesses in the first 3 to 5 years, they're challenged, right? They're very challenged. They're not likely to make a profit. However, there have been so many, there's positives, but there's also concerns. And while there's concerns with a number of airlines, regardless of what airline, you take JetBlue. I remember 2-3 years ago getting stranded in New York for 2 days because of weather. And they said, well, it's weather related, so you're on your own, right? It happens with most airlines, right? I understand that. I think percentages, we're playing the percentage game, though. The percentage game with mechanical issues or customer service issues with BermudAir, percentage-wise, they're probably very high when you see people giving feedback. What they need from the public is the public to remain on their side. But to do that, you need to deliver extremely great customer service and on your promises. And I'm not saying that they're not doing that. We've been very welcoming to BermudAir on this show, and we will continue to be welcoming to them. But something doesn't seem right based on these reports. And hopefully it can be fixed. BermudAir, in a time when Bermuda is struggling for tourists, struggling for airlines to trust us as a destination, they've shown up. But I want people to remember one thing that someone brought to my attention when BermudAir first came along. This is not a Bermudian airline. It's not a Bermuda business. It's a Bermuda-based airline. I think that's what people need to remember with this. Understanding the difference between Bermudian and Bermuda-based. Manuela John says, I was disappointed to hear of the problems with BermudAir. I have traveled with them. Hope they can be sorted out. If it is necessary, I hope government can assist them to keep them going. Okay, well, fair enough. So one person's answer. And folks, if you don't want to answer that on screen, you can use the QR code. So you can use this QR code. If you're tuned in online, use the QR code up there, and we'll put the link in the comments. If you're online, again, if you're online, let me share the link. If you're online, if you don't want to put your answer publicly, we'll give you the option to answer privately. But what are your thoughts? Do you think the government should financially support? Do you believe the government should financially support BermudAir if needed? Not saying they need it, but if needed, would you be in favor of government financially assisting BermudAir if needed? What are your thoughts on that? Again, We're discussing the Royal Gazette recently said Skyport sues BermudAir over unpaid fees, and then Trevor Lindsay's TNN recently reported this week that BermudAir services were disrupted after staff were denied airport access. But what are your thoughts, audience? We've got Dr. Anthony Richardson says they may have bitten off more than they can chew starting out. They need to focus on consolidating 2 gateways, then add more when it's financially feasible. I actually agree with that. Sometimes you have to go backward. And in fairness to them, they first came out as a luxury airline, and then they actually switched. Remember, they just opened it up. And I think that's one of the things that all of us should learn about business is you may have to pivot. I know that was the big word during the pandemic, but you may have to pivot. You may have to change your approach to business, and your plan may have to shift. So, no, I appreciate that. Again, audience, what are your thoughts on the BermudAir situation? And also, would you be in favor of government financially assisting BermudAir if needed? Would you be in favor of government financially assisting BermudAir if needed? Michael Daniels says BermudAir may need to be more transparent with a wider support from the community. Yeah, I see that. Transparency could go a long way in this situation. I absolutely agree, Michael Daniels. Dr. Anthony Richardson says support government funding only if it's a Bermudian company airline. All right. No, it's, as far as I know, it's based in Bermuda. I could be stand corrected if it's a Bermudian company, but it's registered and based in Bermuda. I guess the question is, what makes it a Bermudian company? That's the question there. Again, what are your thoughts? You've seen the reports in the newspaper that BermudAir is being sued by Skyport, according to the Royal Gazette, and TNN reported this week that BermudAir staff were denied access to Skyport, to the airport via Skyport. What are your thoughts on BermudAir's current situation? Again, without much fluff, the flight to TF Green in Providence, Rhode Island was suspended, probably just about a month. And then, I mean, it's just a lot going on. It's a lot going on. Have you flown BermudAir before? And what are your thoughts on it? But also, I think this is an important question. Government has been subsidizing, I don't know if they do, but they were subsidizing, they still do, I should say, but they were subsidizing many airlines for years. Would you be in favor of government financially assisting BermudAir if needed? Would you be in favor of that? Charles H. Jeffers II says, given our need for seats, I would be in favor of the government assisting them with minimum revenue guarantees for certain routes. I would also encourage more collaboration with the BTA. Here's the sticky thing with it, right? I think, Charles, precedent has been set if government still does subsidize airlines coming to Bermuda. But I think it was someone on Twitter X when BermudAir first started, and they said something to the effect that I can see they were very negative. Because remember, I was very positive about BermudAir from the start. Like, oh, this is great. Like, we all felt the need. Well, I think we all did. I was trying to get everyone to feel the need for it. And this person was a negative Nancy, as they say, and they said, no, this is a private entity. And once they go belly up, because this is a belly up industry and belly up space, they're going to ask for public money to help them. And I always remembered that this person said that. And I kept an eye closely on this situation. And I would hate for that person to be right. But the truth is, precedence has been set. Precedence has been set. Precedence has been set because if, and again, I'm not certain whether it still takes place, but we all know that certain airlines receive minimum revenue guarantees previously, right? So what are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on BermudAir at this current time? And also, would you be in favor of government financially assisting Bermuda if needed. Maybe we should reframe that question. Would you be in favor of financially assisting Bermuda if needed? Because it's your money. The government just does what they want with it. It's your money. Would you be in favor of financially supporting BermudAir if needed? Again, it's your money. If you pay taxes, it's your money. So WKD Llama says, we pay other airlines, so I fully support BermudAir. Well, he's BermudaAir, but BermudAir. Here's the thing. As I said, precedence has been set, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe someone can let us know whether or not airlines still get minimum revenue guarantees. I honestly don't know if they do or not. But if someone can confirm that, the point stands, right? If we're doing it for other airlines, why not do it for a Bermuda-based airline? We've got Manuela John says the problem with BermudAir may be structural rather than financial. There are many who want them to succeed so that we can continue with the opportunities they have given us. Absolutely. I stand by that. From the time, you all know, I mean, you can go back and watch this show, listen to this show. I've wanted them to succeed from the beginning. And I want them to succeed because I feel like if they succeed, Bermuda benefits and Bermudians benefit. So I absolutely want them to succeed. But I still believe that this conversation is valid at this time because it seems like we're heading somewhere. That makes sense? It seems like we're heading somewhere. And I don't know if this is where we want to be heading. Charles H. Jefferson II responds to Dr. Anthony Richardson says, Bermuda financially supports other airlines that are not Bermudian-owned or based airlines. It is both the responsibility of the airline and destination to create demand. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Anthony Richardson says, yes, following the president set with other airlines or still do so, recognizing our need for airlift. Absolutely. We have a need for it. We do. Look, let's remove Bermuda from the equation. I'm sure all of us here this morning, if we're honest, we'll know that our tourism is in the drain right now. So anyone, private entity or not, who wants our tourism to do well, we need to support them. As long as it's legal, transparent, and honest, support them. It's easy to me. What does that support look like? Does it have to be financial? What does it look like? Michelle White says BermudAir had a different client focus when they first started, changed their client profile, but now may have grown too fast without adjusting their expenses. Maybe they should scale back and refocus. I don't think government should get involved with this private entity. Fair. It's a challenge. It's a challenge because it is a private entity. But again, Michelle, precedent has been set. It has been set. Just a quick yes or no, audience. Again, would you be in favor of government financially assisting BermudAir if needed? We've got yes from WKD Llama earlier. We got a no from Michelle White, says I don't think so. Charles H. Jefferson II, I believe, said yes. I believe we had a no from Manuela John, I think. But yes or no. So Michelle White, yep, no. Just a yes or no. Yes or no. Should government financially support BermudAir if needed? Again, not saying that they need it, but based on reports, if they need financial support, would you be in favor of government supporting BermudAir? 100% on the QR code said no. We've got Manuela John says yes. Dr. Anthony Richardson says yes. All right. We've got a long one. We'll keep it on the site. Try to keep your comments a bit shorter so that we can show them on screen, audience. But Suzanne Ingham says new companies always struggle, and they are doing the utmost to get BermudAir up and going strong. If the staff aren't allowed to work, Skyport will never get their money. I support BermudAir, and I've never been on their airline yet. Bermuda needs to support them. I think government should assist them. This is our country, and I think it will benefit us in the long run. Help them get on their feet. Be the support they need at this time. Bermuda needs this, yes. What does that support look like, though? Should it be a loan or a minimum revenue guarantee? Like, what does that look like? Now, Pam Wade says, yes, we should support them. Nicole Walker says, no, agree with Michelle's comment. Yeah, private entity. Okay. Well, I don't know whose responsibility this is. I don't know if it falls under the Ministry of Tourism, Transport, Culture, and Sport. That would be Minister Owen Darrell. Whoever it falls under, hope they're tuned in, or hope someone shares with them. But what I will say regarding this is that I'm hopeful that whatever happens with BermudAir benefits Bermuda and Bermudians. Folks, this was your daily discussion brought to you by our friends at Titan Express and Secure. Folks, we are going to show them some love. Then we'll do the news break with Teo Dill. After that, we'll have a quick commercial break, and we've got the Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Adley Duncan, coming on to address your concerns about some recent court cases. Let's show some love to Titan and Secure.
The daily discussion is brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Visit TitanEXBDA.com, your leading tour and transport provider specializing in Black History tours throughout the island. And SecureBDA.com for all your property management, waste management, residential, and commercial trucking needs. Professional, punctual, and reliable service is our commitment to you.
All righty. Thank you all so much for rocking with this. All right, let's bring Teo Dillon for your daily hour news break. And after that, we'll have the Director of Public Prosecutions, Adley Duncan, coming on. Folks, if you haven't already, make sure you, whatever site you're streaming on, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Instagram, give us a like, love, follow. Make sure you subscribe. Just help us beat the algorithm so as many people as you know have access to these most important community conversations.
Good morning, I'm Teo Dill, and welcome to your TDH News Break, brought to you by the great folks at People's Pharmacy, who are meeting your midweek mood with beach bag must-haves or travel size steals, since you know that People's is your go-to for vacation prep. Oh, and don't forget your prescription refills ahead of your summer vacation. It's really important. Now, next Wednesday evening, the Gender Affairs Council is asking you to learn what gender equity is and why it's important. The event's going down in the BEDC training room from 6 to 7:30 p.m. next Wednesday, and we'll cover how gender is defined and understood, with breakout discussions on gender discrimination, workplace equity, and mental health, other key topics. Here's the thing, though. Doing meaningful national analysis of the impact that gender has on women, men, and everyone along the gender spectrum requires data for experts to evaluate. Turns out, as is the case across many areas in Bermudian society, we either don't share that data or maybe we don't even collect it in the first place. The World Bank is one international org that gathers this kind of information on a global scale, picking up and analyzing data from hundreds of countries, covering hundreds of key areas, specifically relating to gender and sex. Now, here's what the featured indicators page looks like in Jamaica. Some gaps, but more than enough information to provide important insights and round out the overall picture. Here's what ours looks like. Yeah, outside of teen birth rate trends, nothing at all. Not literacy rates, not rates of business ownership by sex, or rates of bank account ownership or home ownership. In fact, the UN commented on this absence of information, saying that as of 2020, less than 7% of the indicators required to monitor sustainable development goals are available here in Bermuda. Blech. In other data news, total retail sales volume dropped by nearly 4% in March of this year compared with 2024. This is coming from the newly published Retail Sales Index, underlining that retail sales for the month dropped to just under $95 million, while inflation that month was right around 1%. Notably, we sold less food, liquor, and clothes, while the sales volume went up for gas stations, building materials, all other store types, and motor vehicle stores moved 6% more product. This is the thing that's really striking, though. We bought nearly 25% more overseas declarations this March versus 2024. That said, buying overseas is going to get more expensive quick, which means buying locally will also continue to be that much more pricey. Specifically, Procter & Gamble, the company that makes what seems like everything on the non-food aisles in the grocery store, they've confirmed that price increases will start showing up in the next week or so for the things that you buy, like you. These include brands like Tide, Downy, Febreze, Bounty, Pampers, Charmin, Head & Shoulders, Crest, Old Spice, and many, 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 many more. So brace yourself for when this stuff gets more expensive, and do not blame local retailers. It's not their fault. Now, we're in the high energy chunk of this year's hurricane season, and despite the fact that things have been relatively chill so far, we might have a system headed directly our way in the next few days, maybe over a week. The National Hurricane Center is watching a developing tropical wave in the far eastern Atlantic Ocean, which is a coin flip away from developing and is projected, as you can see here, to move pretty close to Bermuda. Interestingly, the thing that's likely to push it towards us or away from us if it develops is the Bermuda Azores High. If it weakens, the storm's likely to curve further out to sea. If it stays strong, then it's likely to track in our direction. If it does develop, it's going to be called Tropical Storm Erin. Keep that name on the top of your mind. Now, that is a perfect segue into the weather forecast, with today's skies expected to be bright and clear throughout, so much so that the clear sky UV index will hit the extreme level. Keep your sunscreen close. Things should change late tonight, though, with the broad low bringing us a bunch of clouds, hopefully more tank rain and a chance of thunder throughout the rest of this week. And that's your TDH News Break, brought to you by our friends at People's Pharmacy. I'm Teo Dill. Please enjoy the rest of your morning.
All right. Thanks so much for that, Tay. Days of the year, folks. It's International Scuba Day, but it's also Jamaican Independence Day. Yeah, Jamaica is celebrating their independence, something Bermuda probably will never do in my lifetime. But hey, big up to Jamaica. And I want to ask everyone, because I'm going to be honest, I love Jamaicans. I love Jamaica culture. In some ways, I actually envy the love that they have for their culture. So I want to ask you all, what is the best thing Jamaicans have given the world? What's the best thing on this Jamaica Independence Day? And if there are any Jamaicans tuning in, big up to you. Happy independence to all the Jamaicans who do rock with us. But if there's one thing that Jamaica has given the world, what do you think it is? What's the best thing you think Jamaica, little tiny island, 2 million people, probably more Jamaicans living outside of Jamaica than in it, but you could go anywhere in the world to meet a Jamaican, honestly. But what have they given the world? WKD Llama, Bob Marley, I think Exodus, the album of the 20th century. Yep, Bob Marley. Athletics and Lawyers, Usain Bolt, world record holder. Reggae music and Jackfish. Thank you, WKD Llama, Dr. Anthony Richard, and Sean Smith. Bob Marley says Suzanne Ingham. Bob Marley says Tanya Cheeseman. Dorian, Bob Marley and reggae music. Music and food. Man, I'm waiting on somebody to say oxtail. I don't need it, but jerk chicken. That's mine. Stacey Ann Brown, big up yourself. I think you're Jamaican. Got the flags there. So food and reggae. Charles H. Jefferson II says, I can't give one thing, food and music. Mark Arthur Phillips says, good hip hop music. There's this argument in the United States right now that some people are saying that a Jamaican is the creator of hip hop music, and Black Americans saying that's not true. It didn't start with was it Kool Herc? I think he had Jamaican roots, and this is a big thing. But I want to say this regarding Jamaican independence. Say what you want about Jamaica and Jamaicans, but you'll probably never meet a prouder people. So small, but punch way above their weight. And for all the criticism that Jamaica has received over the years, they, as a country, as a culture, as a people, at this point in time, give us something to aspire to. So again, I say big up to all the Jamaicans in Bermuda and around the world. Happy Independence Day to you. Enjoy it, because in about a month, we will be at war when Bermuda whoops you in that World Cup qualifier. All right, let's go to a break. I ain't arguing with nobody. We'll be back in about 3 minutes with Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Adley Duncan. Stick with us.
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
Ready to take your financial game to the next level? HSBC is here to help you power up your financial fitness. Your strategy should be sharp and ready for anything, because luck won't get you to the top. Whether securing your future, growing wealth, or planning for life's next serve, HSBC's experts are here for you. From budgeting to investing, let's craft a plan as unique as your goals. Plus, get free financial planning consultations to stay on track. Learn more at hsbc.bm/financial planning. HSBC Bank Bermuda is licensed to conduct banking and investment business by the Bermuda Monetary Authority.
96 degrees, real hot, oh yes.
Summer's heating up, but your home, it can chill. BAC is turning down the heat with 20% off Carrier X-Power mini split AC units. They're sleek, whisper quiet, and smart thanks to energy-saving inverter technology. New install, upgrade, doesn't matter. Just don't miss out. For a limited time, get 20% off when you pay with cash, credit, or debit.
96 degrees, real hot.
Swing by BAC on Mill Creek Road today.
Take a look at our walkway for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places, and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Pair with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear, you can't go wrong. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
Discover Drop It, your go-to grocery delivery. Browse and select from a wide range of groceries, from fresh produce to daily essentials. Our friendly drivers deliver fresh groceries to your door fast, saving you time and hassle. With Drop It, you get fresh groceries delivered fast, so you can focus on what really matters. Drop It, freshness at your doorstep, delivered to your door with Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Jamel Hartman here. It's the Daily Hour, brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we are able to pump through the radio airwaves on Hot 107.5 with these most important community conversations. Folks, please don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Again, folks, if you are tuned in via any of the streams, be it Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter X, or Instagram, do us a big favor. Give us a like, love, follow, share the link with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Make sure everyone in your WhatsApp group has this conversation, because we are about to welcome a very important guest. We've got Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Adley Duncan, on, and you all have asked for someone from the DPP because of your concerns about some recent cases. Let's give a warm TDH welcome to the Deputy Director, Adley Duncan, from the Department of Public Prosecutions. Greetings, sir. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for the Jamaican big ups. I'm really, really very appreciative of them. I agree reggae music is probably the best Jamaican export, I think, for the world. My boss, the DPP, wanted to be here to field the question. She is on leave this week, so she has sent me. So I'm hoping I can field everybody's questions.
Thank you so much. So you're Jamaican?
I am very much Jamaican, born and raised.
You know, well, I honestly did not know that. So maybe she said...
I'm distressed that you didn't know that, because I thought my accent was very powerful, but I'll have to try to bring it in more for Independence Day.
You know what? I appreciate that. I think it all works out. Having a Jamaican on the Daily Hour. Independence Day.
Yeah, man. So I do feel very warmly welcomed, and I do hope to transmit what I feel for the warmth of that welcome into answering everybody's questions.
Absolutely. And we're going to be friends for the next 30 minutes, but like I said, next month we'll have another conversation, sir.
Excellent. Awesome.
Stopping by. Honestly, definitely appreciate the office making time for us. But let's start with public concern. There have been a number of not guilty verdicts with some serious crimes recently, or serious cases, criminal cases recently. How does your office respond to public concerns that justice isn't being served?
So I think the best way to respond to that is to think about the fact that everything is a system and it's a process, and these processes have been developed over centuries. So I mean, we, Jamaica, Bermuda, other Commonwealth countries, or overseas territories, inherited English law, which has been developing since the medieval times. So it's a process that has built up and is tested over time. And it does not always have results that we like or results that we expect. And I myself was involved in some of these acquittal cases, and I have my own responses and reactions. But we can't only believe in a system when it generates the results that we like and that we agree with. So we have to interrogate the system, and we have to interrogate the processes. Were the processes working right? Did the system work properly? And if we interrogate that, which our office obviously has done, because we have our own like internal postmortems to say, okay, what went wrong, what went right, what would we have done differently? When we ask ourselves those questions and we examine it, more broadly, the system is working fine. Does it lead to, for some, surprising results or unexpected results? Yes, but the jurors who were the ones who were sitting in court hearing all the evidence, because everybody else is reading the Gazette articles. Everybody else is reading maybe social media commentary about the cases, but very few persons are actually going into court every single day, actually hearing and seeing the evidence. And the 12 jurors were the ones who were doing that. So we can't necessarily say, we can't read an article about an allegation and then say, oh, this should have been guilty, when you haven't heard a day of evidence. The jurors who heard the evidence, they weren't satisfied to the standard that the law requires, which is an extremely high standard. So look at the systems, not the results. And the systems didn't break down. The processes were intact. The results for some were understandably, including me, candidly, surprising, but it's not a reflection of the system. It's just a reflection of that particular case, I think.
I want to highlight something, because I've said on this show before, when we were in court fighting to bring conscription to an end in Bermuda, that was when I first realized that what's reported in the news media is literally a fraction of what actually is discussed in the court. So I want to highlight that, so people who have never been in a court understand that you're not getting the full story. And unfortunately, the media can't give you an entire story because they have other things to fill. So thank you for that point. But let's talk about transparency and trust. What steps is the Department of Public Prosecutions taking to reassure the public that these outcomes are not a reflection of, I guess, try to be diplomatic, incompetence?
I think I know what you mean. Yeah, incompetence. So, a system, so the justice system requires everybody's buy-in. All the stakeholders need to believe that the justice system works. This includes witnesses, this includes jurors, this includes the defendants themselves, this includes everybody who comes into contact with the justice system. It cannot at all work unless everyone believes that it works. And so when things go in a way that we don't expect, it starts at the internal level. So as an office, it's a consultative process. All right, these are the steps. This is what happened. This is what unfolded in this way. Did anything go wrong? If something went wrong, why did it go wrong? How can we make sure it does not go wrong in the future? Now, for each and every one of those cases where there was an acquittal that reached the news, there were these internal processes that took place. They take place first at the prosecution team level, the wider office level, either formally or informally at a management level, or just less formally depending on the case and the circumstances. And then a wider consultation may happen. And I can say that from my knowledge, which is not a very small base of knowledge, I have very, very direct knowledge of what we're talking about. There is nothing that we detected, and based on feedback, nothing that was obvious or apparent or readily discernible, that there was something that went wrong. Not with the presentation of the evidence, not with how evidence was elicited, not with any legal arguments. It's just that the standard of proof, which a prosecution is required to discharge, the jurors just did not find that it had been met. There was no deficiency on the court's part. There was no smoking gun aha, that went wrong. So in terms of the public feeling confident, the public ought to feel confident that this is the DPP's office, the Department of Public Prosecutions, is an institution. So there were DPPs before Miss Cindy Clark. There'll be DPPs I expect after Miss Cindy Clark. And the expectation is that the survivability of the office survives individuals. I will not be there forever. I'm a guest worker. People will retire, people will resign and move on to other jobs, but the institution and processes need to remain intact. So that's what we focus on, is everything as an institution working correctly. And that's what we try to build and strengthen and enhance. So when the public is feeling like, man, you know, I don't know, like what's going on with these cases, it's these same members of the public we find interestingly who, when they're called for jury service, they either don't come or they come and they offer some excuse about why they can't come. Oftentimes it's legitimate, sometimes it's not, and it's obvious when it's not. And these are people who are sometimes very much unwilling to serve. They want to stay at a distance and talk about the system, but they aren't necessarily participating, or witnesses who, you know, see something happen and don't want to give a statement, right? So everybody needs to buy in and everybody needs to participate. And it's sometimes the lack of participation that causes delays and results that we don't like. But your question was about people feeling confident and, you know, come in, ask questions, write in, because we try to engage the public, because not everybody's born knowing everything, and we serve the public. You know, we are paid by taxpayers. It's a constitutional body. The DPP is a constitutional institution. So we respond, we report to the public, and so we try to engage the public. And so if there is anyone who ever has any contact with the justice system, observe, ask questions, because we try to be as transparent as possible. So on our end, me coming on this program is part of that transparency, because it requires everyone to believe and participate.
All right. Audience, if you have any questions or comments for Deputy Director Duncan, please send them through. If you have any questions regarding the DPP office, please send them through. We'll get through as many questions and comments as possible. I want to shift gears a bit. After cases, you've seen family members, sometimes parents, go on social media and vent their frustration or concerns. How is your office working to ensure that victims and their families feel heard and supported throughout the legal process, especially in cases that end in acquittal?
So prosecuting and doing trials in the criminal justice process is a very human process, because we are dealing with people at their worst. They've had a loved one who has been murdered, or they have seen a loved one murdered, or they've been assaulted or shot at or robbed. So we are dealing with people who are recounting the worst experiences of their lives. And this is what we do every day for a living. So we understand that we are dealing with trauma and people who have experienced and survived very traumatic events. So that is work that sometimes we take on ourselves as prosecutors, sometimes more than we probably, certainly when we're trained to do professionally, but it's unavoidable. But it's work that for the most part that we outsource. So our office has a witness care department. So I should pause to say that as prosecutors, we do engage with witnesses. So at that starting point, we understand inherently that as part of the job, empathy is required and compassion is required, because we're dealing with people at their worst or recounting their worst experiences. But over and above our abilities to do that, because we're not trained in that way, we do have witness care officers who are more on the ground in terms of dealing with witnesses, and they act as liaisons between persons who are in contact with the justice system, like victims, like family members, like witnesses, and they are the ones who are the conduits through which information is exchanged through our office. Now, it is not, so sometimes some things are bigger than our abilities. And so in those cases, we have referral mechanisms to persons who are professionally trained to help and support people who are dealing with the after effects of cases, because of course, whereas a case finishes and for a prosecutor doing a job, we have to prosecute the next case, they have to continue living their lives. But the contact doesn't stop. So I still, me personally, up till this week, I remain in contact with some persons who I have done, cases for, because you do build connections with these people. And in some cases, in one case I can think of, there was a person who made a particular allegation and the matter was tried and the defendant was acquitted. And the person was disappointed by the verdict, but the person understands as a logical process the verdict, and somebody I've remained in contact with, because I think that is part of the of the process of dealing with very difficult things. So we, and I'm not the only person, so we as prosecutors at times make ourselves available. We also have dedicated witness care officers who are more on the ground in making themselves available in that kind of way. And of course, we refer, matters onto persons if it's a little bigger than our capabilities, persons who are professionally trained, and we do offer support in whatever way we feel able.
Indeed. Thank you for that. Let's talk about strategy. Are there any changes being made in your office as it relates to presenting cases to improve chances of conviction where the evidence allows?
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. So I did say that the trial process is a very human process, and the criminal trial is how I believe the state of Bermuda communicates its conceptions of justice to the citizen, right? So justice is this big abstract concept, right? And that doesn't mean anything to the person who is buying groceries or the person taking their kid to school. What does justice mean to them on a day-to-day basis? So when you're involved in a criminal trial, these very abstract, highfalutin concepts of justice have to be communicated to that citizen. And the criminal trial process is the mechanism where that communication takes place. And as a prosecutor, you are one of the communicators in that process, right? So in terms of analyzing, okay, we saw the case a certain way. The jurors clearly didn't see the case in that way. Was this a communication issue? So from a strategy perspective, we look at how that communication took place. We look at the jurors, and then we say, okay, what other ways can we use in future cases to communicate these kinds of things differently? Because in this case, the communication did not appear to come across the way that we wanted. So from a strategic perspective, communication is different depending on the prosecutor, because I have a method of communication that may be different from Ms. Clark's or some other prosecutors. Who the defense lawyer is impacts how communication takes place. And you look at the composition of the jury. Now that's very not so useful, because we can't poll jurors like you can in other jurisdictions in the United States. So you can't really see a person and stereotype, but you can make very quick assessments based on how they respond to questions the judge may be asking. You may be looking at things that they may themselves ask, and you try to form some preliminary conclusions about what kinds of communications might impact them positively. And so in terms of strategy, we try to break each case down, deconstruct each case, and then reconstruct it in a way where communication actually takes place. Because I'm fond of saying that communication isn't just the passage of words, it's the transference of meaning. And if meaning isn't transferred and conveyed, no communication takes place. So when it comes to re-strategizing, part of that re-strategizing is reformulating ideas about how to effectively communicate, which will differ from case to case, but the process does happen.
All right, we have quite a few questions and comments coming through, but I have one more before I want to go to the audience. Collaboration with the police. How closely does your office work with the Bermuda Police Service to build stronger cases? And how do you believe improvements, improvements are needed in that partnership?
Well, for one thing, we don't have a system like we see on Law and Order in the US, where the prosecutor is actually on the crime scene the day a murder happens, in the crime scene tape, telling the police, collect that, gather that. So that doesn't happen. I mean, it probably happens in very extraordinary rare cases, but generally speaking, it doesn't happen. But I do think that we collaborate quite closely with the police. That has been my own experience, and from observation and reports, that's the experience of my colleagues. So I, at my level, am in communication daily with the police. We offer ongoing training sessions. In fact, I'm participating in a collaborative session with the police just this Friday on one particular area of criminal justice evidence. There's ongoing training with other members of the police, with collaborators like immigration, customs, the Coast Guard, JDF, regiment. So I do believe that there is very close collaboration, and that's just because Bermuda is a small place, right? and my office is a small office. And I say that to mean that we know each other. So it's not like the UK where you may have like 500 prosecutors and thousands of police officers, right? We know who the officers are. They know who we are, and reaching out and taking a phone call to get advice about a particular thing, or emailing this person for when there's an issue about this thing, or setting up training, setting up conferences, having the training sessions. Those things do happen quite regularly. So I do think that whatever criticisms can fairly and legitimately be made of aspects of the criminal justice process, including prosecutions, I think collaboration with the police isn't one such criticism, because I think we work together pretty well. That's been my experience.
Alrighty, thank you so much. I want to go to the audience, and folks, I'll get through as many as possible, but he cannot stay all day. So if I don't get to your question, do not take it personal. All right, we'll do our best to be concise. Dr. Anthony Richardson says there's a growing list of cold/unresolved criminal cases in Bermuda. Does the DPP chambers have a team or teams dealing with cold cases?
Absolutely. So it's not a formal team, but you do find at the management level, the police may make an inquiry. So usually this is a police-led initiative. You don't really have prosecutors saying, oh, I remember this case from 10 years ago, let me look at it again. Usually the police were like, oh, you know, we never actually went forward with X case or Y case. Let me bring it back to the attention of like a Mr. Mahoney, who is a deputy, or this other prosecutor who's a deputy, or this other senior crown counsel, or me. They're like, you know, look at this case again. We didn't do it the last time because X, Y, Z. Look at it again, and you know, or maybe sometimes fresh evidence comes forward, or there may be advances in DNA technology, or maybe some new kind of evidence like cell site analysis becomes relevant that wasn't available 10 years before. Or so, there's one case I did where data was extracted from a machine at a time when we didn't have capabilities that we now have, so it's looked at again and stuff like that. So there is a process of review. It's not a formal team, but it's a police-led initiative where when the police reinvigorate cold cases, or when they have new leads, or their new investigative tactics or methods that can make a prosecution viable that was not viable before, there is a process by which cold cases may actually reach court. So yes.
Right. Sean Smith's asking, is the DPP office able to propose recommendations for changes to laws?
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. It's part of our remit, actually. So we do work with the drafting department upstairs. When I don't say work with, we work on the same building, but we collaborate, we speak with them. There is a formal process for preparing like cabinet memos and legislative proposals that, you know, you present like a paper and it goes to parliament, and I think it goes back to drafting and it gets advice from agencies in this debate. So there are formal processes and informal processes. And there are legislative committees, and there are other kinds of policy, panels. So there are very many ways. The answer to that is a very strong, emphatic yes. And this is something that I would also encourage members of the public to have a stake in. So one thing I would like to work on at some point in time is having a mechanism where we can actually have more engagement with the public, because like I said, we can't be inaccessible. We can't be too accessible, but we can't be inaccessible either. So when persons who are most impacted by laws have ideas about how laws need to change, we would very much welcome some input from a criminal justice perspective, so that because we make our own observations, we work in the system. And so we do have methods for referring these things to Parliament through legislative draftings and committees and stuff. But we would welcome, I think, input from members of the public who have ideas, because they are the ones who are most impacted. And so if anyone on your program or future programs has those kinds of ideas, and they would want to reinvite somebody from my office to participate and consider them, that could be one mechanism where ideas are taken from members of John Q. Public and go all the way to Parliament.
All right. Let me just get through two more from the audience. Rosalind Famous asking, what forensic technology technicians are available on the island, and has the lack thereof had an effect on the outcomes of cases?
So two questions. So the first question is, technology on island isn't so readily available. And so anything that requires testing is generally sent overseas to overseas partners, like in the US or Canada, or sometimes the UK. There are local persons, but for the most part, more sophisticated testing tends to take place overseas. But because it tends to take place overseas, that means there hasn't been a negative impact on cases. So it's never a situation where, oh my God, we don't have this person in Bermuda, therefore nothing can be done and the case just can't go forward. No, it just means that the testing is sent, the forensic materials are sent overseas for forensic testing. The forensic testing takes place overseas or by overseas partners, and then the results are available to us and presented in court, and the experts either come to court from overseas to give evidence, or they give evidence remotely, the way I'm talking to everyone. So there's never been, certainly not to my certain knowledge and experience since I've been here, but I can't think of any occasion where there would ever be a situation where, due to the absence of a local person, a case is negatively impacted. We always make sure that whatever needs to be done is done, and if it can't be done here, it's done elsewhere. But once the evidence is necessary for acquisition, we acquire it, and we do in fact present it. So there's like no negative outcome.
That leads me to the acquittals. Not the acquittals, the reversals. We've had quite a few cases where people have basically had their cases dismissed after being found guilty and serving years, and some of it seems to have been, the evidence presented and the like. Is this something, people seem concerned in the public? Is this something people need to be concerned about cases going forward, or have we corrected those issues that have led to this?
So have there been quite a few? I'm not sure there've been quite a few. Right. So one situation I can think of quite readily is the recent Julian Washington case, which would have rightly attracted a lot of conversation and attention. And that case went all the way to the Privy Council, and it really shone a mirror back at us meaning the wider criminal justice society, because that was where I think trust was placed in the wrong person, the wrong institution. And I wish there was some program where I could go to that case we take the hour and just talk about that case alone, and time doesn't allow for that this morning. But in that case, it came to light that there was a forensic partner that was used way back in the day, 15, 12 years ago. And so that person was used back in the day, and we had no reason to mistrust that person or that institution that we used to collaborate with. I think we stopped from 2012 or 2015 or something like that, but meaning Bermuda. But she presented evidence, and in a way that the Julian Washington case realized was just completely unreliable. So what we did as a result, the director led an initiative where all right, every single case that this individual was involved in, we're going to use the expert that was approved and endorsed by the Privy Council to review all of those cases. So there was a whole mechanism. So she started with the convictions, and then cases where there were acquittals, and in cases where there were just rulings based on this is the DNA evidence specifically. And so all those cases were reviewed, and where there were red flags, those cases were the short version of this. I really should have a long program on this, but the short version of this, those cases were highlighted and those persons were acquitted, which I believe was just 2 out of 400. So it is bad. So I'm not trying to downplay how serious this is, but I do want to emphasize that we have not used that individual in well over a decade, and ever since then the technology has improved. So what went wrong had to do with the fact that particular markers which are used for DNA forensic evidence, we have moved way past that. And processes, so especially with the partner that we use, her name is Dr. Barbara Llewellyn, very well respected, very transparent, and transparency is the order of the day. The processes have been improved. We're transparent about what those processes are, transparent about collecting mechanisms, testing mechanisms, because we know we can't get this wrong. Again, our currency is trust, and trust was impacted by this. So things cannot remain the same when trust is impacted. So we looked at what went wrong. We've never used that person again. And this is, again, over 10, 12 years ago. And we have made sure that we have gone forward in what we do, and we are transparent in how we do what we do. Vague, but that's because I don't have a lot of time, but I really would love for that to be clear, because I don't want anyone to be left with the impression that there are flaws or problems. That was an individual who was doing wildness.
Yeah, well, I want to say this. Rosalind Famous said it. Looking forward to having Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, Rosalind. Thank
Honestly,
you very much.
So much more, and the audience has a lot of questions, but we'll touch on that. But real quickly, before you head out, what would you say to Bermudians who, despite what you said this morning, still have lost faith in the court system due to these recent verdicts and those two cases in particular you just discussed where verdicts were overturned?
I would say that I would never discourage somebody from not having their feelings and attitudes, even when they're negative about the justice system, because people are entitled to their feelings and their attitudes. I would never say you cannot feel that way because I know so much more than you, because that's just not how, that's not an appropriate way to deal with somebody who has an opinion on something. People are allowed to have opinions on things. People are allowed to have their thoughts on things and to express those thoughts and feelings. What that means is that when there is that cynicism, and it could be valid, when there is that skepticism, it just means that we have to work harder as prosecutors. It doesn't mean that we just throw our hands up and say, well, that's what you think, and I just know everything and I'm better. That cannot be our way. It just means that when this skepticism exists, so for example, people may hear things in the vapor, in the ether, and not really know the details. And sometimes knowing the details and knowing the information helps inform better perceptions, and we can be responsible for delivering that information, like in a program like this. Or the Gazette talks about one aspect of a case and other aspects may not be known, but the wider public only knows that one publicized aspect. We can shed more light and have more discussions and engagement, and we just have to keep working and doing excellently, because whatever the public may think, the job still needs to get done. And where cynicism exists, the remedy for cynicism is excellence. I happen to think, I mean, I have a biased perspective, sure, but I happen to think that Ms. Clark DPP has a very good team. I think I work as part of a very good organization. I like to think I do very, very good work. I try very hard to do very, very good work. And I think I work as part of a team that tries very hard and in fact does very, very good work. And so when this cynicism exists, the solution is just to keep at it and keep doing well. And that's where our head is, just to make sure the work keeps on getting done so that that cynicism, with the benefit of time, evaporates.
Indeed. Thank you so much. And you got to run. We appreciate you, Deputy Director Adley Duncan. Look forward to having you back. Continue the conversation. Enjoy Independence Day, even though you got to work. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, folks, that was the Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Adley Duncan. Folks, whatever platform you're on, please, if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Instagram, give us a like, love, follow, share the link with your friends, your family, your colleagues, subscribe to our channels. Make sure you share these conversations. And folks, if we don't ever get to your question or comment, don't take it personal. There's so many that come through. Some may get overread. And also, you want to hear what the guest is saying. And sometimes they're going to speak long on certain things that require more, to be said. So hopefully we can have him back or someone from the DPP office on again to answer some of the questions that you have, because a lot of good questions came through. Hold those for us. But we're going to take a final break. We'll come back. We've got the Daily Play coming up. And I want to see how many of you can get this answer correct. Stick with us.
Considering the increasing challenges faced by financial institutions, the need for insurance protection is a critical component of the risk management framework. At Friesenbrook, our priority is to safeguard your assets with the most optimal, cost-effective risk management cover to help protect your business, whether it be cyber, directors and officer liability, professional indemnity, or property insurance. Call us on 296-3600 to learn more about our full suite of competitive corporate insurance products. At Friesenbrook, we provide insurance you can count on.
Dreaming of expanding your business? With BDC's Loan Guarantee Program, we support your ambitions. Get up to 75% guarantee on bank or credit union loans up to $300,000. Just your vision and our support. Apply today and unlock new business opportunities. BDC. Bermuda business starts here.
Looking for the best care for your pets? Novazok Feed and Supply has everything you need, from top quality foods to toys and supplies. We've got it all. Join our frequent buyer program and earn rewards every time you shop. Plus, we've been awarded the Clever Customer Initiative program for helping you save more. And don't forget, we open an hour early on Saturdays so you can get a head start on your pet care. Visit us today or shop online for easy pickup or delivery. Your pets will thank you.
Audience, did you love that conversation? Oh boy, thanks again to Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Adley Duncan, for stopping by for that important community conversation. Thanks again to the BAC Group of Companies, Medicals, Lindos, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we're able to pump through the radio airwaves on Hot 107.5 with these most important community conversations on a regular basis. Folks, if you haven't already, if you appreciate that conversation, let us know in the comments. Also, whatever social media platform you may be on, give us a like, love, follow, share the link with your friends, your family, your colleagues. I am loving the conversations we're having this week. Taryn Frey yesterday. Today, the Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions. Tomorrow, I believe we'll have Nurse of the Year, Christine Bogle-Meinsner. We're having a good week, folks. We are having a good week, and it's only going to get better with your support. But right now, it's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right, it's music today, and I know you all love some R&B. And I know you all are going to get this question correct. So here it is. What's the one thing on Jesse Powell's mind in his hit song? Mark Arthur C. Phillips, a fan of music, he got it. That was like, I came across an argument last night on social media, and people were like, that was probably one of the biggest hits in the 90s. Like, you saw people getting married to that. I don't want to sing for you all, didn't pay for that. Stacey Ann Brown got it as well. Wow, Michelle White says, don't even know who he is. And Suzanne Ingham says, who is Jesse Powell actually passed away at a very young age recently, over the last 2-3 years. Jesse Powell had one of the biggest wedding songs of the late 90s into the 2000s. It was called You. Look it up. I'm pretty sure if you attended a wedding during that time, you heard this song. It was one of the most popular songs going into the early 2000s. Am I lying, audience? Like, was that not one of the biggest hits? You had Casey and JoJo, All My Life around that time. Because we had transitioned from Atlantic Star and Luther. You know, Atlantic Star had Always and Luther had Here and Now. We had transitioned to like Jesse Powell, You, and we had All My Life, Casey and JoJo back then. Yeah, see, Dr. Anthony Richardson knows what's up. Come on now, you all got to know your R&B now. Come on. But yeah, look up that song. It's a beautiful song. It's still a song that so many people make videos to throughout social media. But let's wrap it up, folks. Let's wrap it up. Final thoughts on the BermudAir situation. Look, at the end of the day, precedents seems to have been set. The difference is this company operates out of Bermuda. Whether or not we should use taxpayers' dollars for a private entity, for me, I don't really care if we've been subsidizing other airlines. And precedence has been set. I don't think that a private entity should be receiving public dollars. That's my personal opinion. However, I understand the importance of the role that BermudAir can play in reviving one of our key pillars in our economy. So I'm kind of on the fence, but I would say rather than revenue guarantees, loan systems where it's a payback, maybe a interest-free or a very low interest loan to them if they were in need. Again, we don't know if they're in need. This is just based on reports. Maybe they are in financial need. Regarding the conversation with Deputy Director, again, you all ask such important questions, and hopefully we get the office back to answer some of your questions. And I really hope you all tune in when they do come back and hold those questions, because we need answers, and I appreciate the transparency of the office for coming on and having the conversation with us about and reassuring the public that they are doing all they can to ensure justice. And something that the Deputy Director Duncan said, just because things don't go our way doesn't mean the system's not working. And that's so true. That's a life lesson. Just because things don't go our way doesn't mean that things are not great. I think we have to, as a community, understand the roles we play, because we have so much more to discuss with the DPP that we didn't, especially the role of us, how important it is for Bermudians to not, and the job is not to convict, but it's for justice, right? We don't want to convict the wrong person. It's about justice. And again, maybe it's a time for us to self-reflect and truly understand the role that we can play. Got to give you some daily inspiration. And I want to say this, I know some people felt that my monologue yesterday that I shared on social media came across as I was condemning, and that's fine. But I want to leave you with this morning, and I'm speaking from my heart. I'm a believer, and it took me a long time to get here. One of the greatest foundations of true love is accountability, not enabling. And if you find yourself in a place where everyone around you enables your behavior, regardless of what you do, question the love that they say they have for you. I'll leave it at that. All right, folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. I'm Jamel Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are Izelle. Peace.